Alright, for my next instructional video for you on how to make your opponent's knights ineffective and make your own knights strong is a game by Tal and Westerman. And Mikhail Tal is black in this game. They play a very interesting game. Westerman, of course, opens with pawn king 4. Tal goes for the Sicilian defense. It's a typical Sicilian opening at this point. They're trying to establish the different central squares. Westerman's knight, of course, is hitting the two dark squares, d4 and e5. Tal's knight is hitting the d5 and e4. They're looking for center power and influence. Westerman pushes the pawn to drive Tal's knight over to here. Westerman brings out his bishop. He fianchettos the bishop, giving him a very long good diagonal, even though it's his bad bishop because his central pawn is on the same color of his bishop. Now, Westerman again is trying to drive Tal's knight off. You can see he's got it posted here on the outpost. The best way to defeat a knight is to get rid of it. Make it so that it cannot sit there and park and enjoy itself in the center of the board. So Tal is forced to retreat his knight, and then here comes Westerman bringing his knight out. Tal's not going to let the center unchallenged at all. Look at the central power that Westerman has built up with his knights here. He is really going for the central control. Tal takes the center pawn. He's got double pawns in the center. He's not worried about that at this point. Westerman instantly exchanges the pawn. Takes the weak front doubled pawn. Look at those knights. They are completely radiating power and influence in this game. This is how to play knights. Tal goes ahead and castles. Westerman is coming straight up the center with another pawn thrust. Tal wisely takes the pawn. You can't let that much central power go unanswered. Westerman comes out with his queen, and now look at this picture, will you? If you decipher this chessboard correctly, you'd have to say Westerman has an incredible position at this point. Tal's position gives us the feeling of being slightly cramped. Westerman is just marching forward. Watch how Tal takes care of this. First, he brings his bishop to b4. Check. Westerman moves his king, so he can't castle. Now, the next thing Tal does, when your opponent has this much influence inside your territory and in the center of the board, you simply can't let him remain there. So Tal begins the Steinitz rule of kicking the knight off of his post, and he does so. Westerman comes back down here to d3 on his knight. Tal doesn't stop, though. He now threatens the queen, and the queen dodges back to e3. He pulls his bishop back to a5. Westerman brings his queen to g5. Tal brings his queen. He's got to develop his queen side. He's behind in development like crazy. This is not a good situation. Westerman's going to go ahead and tuck his king away anyway, even though he never got a castle. Tal pulls his queen up. Westerman is searching for more territory still, enforcing that central knight with that pawn move. Tal says, okay, I can skewer the 2 knights to the king with my bishop. So now comes the beginning of an interesting set of maneuvers where I believe Tal is telling Westerman, you've had enough fun at my expense. Now I'm getting mad. Westerman, of course, dodges down here to g3 with the knight. Tal, interestingly enough, brings his bishop back up here. He is protecting his king. The attack options with the diagonals are too much. He has to take care of his king first. Westerman brings his rook over to c1. Tal brings his other knight out finally. Westerman pulls his bishop up. Tal's starting to get his knights going here. Now he's starting to pick up some momentum. He doesn't have outposts as such, but they're on the move because he has driven Westerman's powerful central knights that were here. He's driven them back and scattered the horses. Westerman makes sure his king is tucked away. And now Tal starts coming in with some serious power. Takes the bishop. Westerman brings his queen back pretty quick. And Tal brings his other knight to bear. Now can you see how the roles have been reversed? Now when you look at this board, you see Westerman's powerful knights over here and over there, and you see Tal's knights focusing and concentrating. That's quite a lesson in how to get rid of your opponent's knights and their influence and bring your own knights to bear on the nature of the game. Tal is one of the very best teachers to study for that reason. The king finally does take one of Tal's knights, and Tal brings in the bishop and takes one of Westerman's knights. The bishop comes up, removes Tal's bishop. Tal brings his queen over. Now you can see a possible discovered check coming up on Westerman's king, which is never a good thing to get caught in. So he dodges back down here to b2 immediately, because moving that bishop, he would have moved the bishop right there, put the king in check, and Westerman would have lost his queen. You don't want to have a discovered check on you if you can help it. And he does dodge the bishop back anyway, threatening the queen. Queen up to e4, and now the bombshell. Tal has a full-blown attack. Queen takes the a2 pawn, check to the king, and the knight is protecting the queen. Westerman dodges up to c3. Tal brings his bishop down, check. Now this is an incredible turn of events. At one point, Westerman was absolutely crushing Tal in a completely constricted position. Tal chased his knights away with his pawns, and then Tal came at him with all of his minor pieces, the bishops, the knights. With his major piece, the queen is back up. Westerman's king is in deep trouble here. He does take the knight, of course. He certainly should. Tal still has the initiative and the momentum. Now you come to a5, check to the king. You see how Tal has virtually driven the king all the way from here, all the way up and around and out into the open? That is incredible how he did it. It began with getting rid of those knights by the Steinitz rule. He took away their outposts, and then he established his own knights. That's the way to play knights. Tal went on to win the game. You want to see the ending? The ending's really quite nice. Takes the pawn check. Mate. Game over. That is an amazing situation. So when you see your opponent with knights coming at you with power like Westerman did against Tal, don't give up, don't get excited, don't lose hope. Look for the moves that will chase the knights away, push them back out of the game. You notice this knight never played in that game anymore. After he was driven down, he never was influenced. This rook was never influential in the game. Even though at one point, Westerman had a much better development than Tal. Tal chased the knights away and got his own development going, heading out with those two powerful knights, the bishop and the queen. So that's a terrific lesson about how to work with knights, your own and against your opponents. I have another fabulous game I want to show you.